recognition.
To speak on the bill.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I think the problem comes down to this. A few weeks ago, we saw Canadian truckers, including many Sikh immigrants, who were protesting civil rights violations involving vaccine mandates. The left called them white supremacists. American parents concerned about curriculum that teaches their children that skin color is the defining characteristic, including one African-American father I saw interviewed who said, "I don't want my children taught to hate their classmates based on their race." These protests were called white supremacists. Asian families in San Francisco protesting racial quotas, called white supremacists. Citizens concerned with voter fraud, routinely called white supremacists. It's clear that the left defines anyone who challenges their agenda as white supremacists and domestic terrorists. So giving more power to use the Justice Department that is armed with the most terrifying powers that any government possesses, powers to stalk and threaten and intimidate Americans based on their beliefs, that is very concerning. And it's potentially dangerous to our most cherished and fundamental rights as Americans, our freedom to express our opinions freely and petition our government for redress of grievances. It is true that there is a lunatic fringe, and often a violent lunatic fringe, on every political side that can pose a threat to civil order. And we have very good laws to hold them accountable when their words become deeds, and those deeds harm others. But it's actions for which free societies hold people accountable by law, not opinions, no matter how outrageous those opinions might be, not words, no matter how hateful or hurtful those words might be, actions, deeds. But this doesn't target actions. It targets opinions and words. Indeed, not even opinions currently held or words spoken, but rather words that might be spoken, opinions that might be held, might be. If you can define words and thoughts as actionable with the vast powers of government, you have just rendered useless the freedom that is enshrined and protected by our First Amendment. I sit here listening to these discussions wondering whatever happened to that fundamental American ethic that we all shared, conservatives and liberals alike. I might disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. I think liberals, true liberals and conservatives, still share those beliefs. But the left does not share that belief in any way, shape, or form. And we've seen that demonstrated over and over again recently in rampant censorship being leveled against Americans, in the unequal administration of justice, in the turning of our most powerful institutions against American citizens who are simply seeking to exercise their most fundamental right in any free society, the right to speak freely. Here is Churchill's warning. A state of society where men may not speak their minds, where children denounce their parents to the police, where a businessman or small shopkeeper ruins his competitor by telling tales of his private opinions. Such a state of society cannot long endure if brought into contact with the healthy outside world. This is the state of society the left is taking us toward. And I pray that the American people will bring it into contact with the healthy outside world this November. I yield back.
The gentleman yield?
Yes, I yield to the gentleman.
Thank you. I'll just be real brief. I think the gentleman made very good points. I would just note, when you're talking about the left not wanting to hear free speech, I think there's nowhere where we see this more evident than our college campuses nowadays, where conservative speakers are either barred or shouted down. If there's any place where we ought to invite free speech, and there ought to be an open debate on both sides, and let the students consider what their views are as they're growing intellectually and otherwise, it ought to be on college campuses. So the left is just making a mess of those college campuses right now by inhibiting free speech.
And this, I'm concerned, goes even farther, because it's not just censoring people for their opinions and their words. They are now actively using the power of government to intimidate people from even thinking of expressing those freedoms.
I yield back. Thank you.
Have you noticed that as everything around you seems to decline, one thing still grows? It is the power of your rulers. None of their plans and directives have solved your problems or made your life better. The only result has been their increased control over you at the cost of your freedom. Do you know why? You gave them the power.